All right, ladies and gents, welcome back to Do It All Garage. Today's the day I'm going to tackle this beast right here, at least the rear end on it. Hopefully I can get it knocked out. But first, I got some stuff to move around. Got a lot of stuff in my garage. Got my kids' bicycles and my boy's dirt bike, my other three-wheeler here, and my welding / work table is pretty much covered with stuff. So I'm going to move some of this around so I've got some room to lay my parts out and get them fixed. It's a lot of stuff to move, but it drives me crazy trying to walk around all this stuff and shuffle stuff around while I'm working. So I'm going to go ahead and get it knocked out. So let me know if you have any questions, and here we go. Y'all, it's definitely sweat towel season. It is upon me. I got about half of my table cleaned off. Those are tools I was going to be using anyway, so yep, got about half of it cleaned and swept off. Got all the stuff moved out of the floor. It is now in my driveway, and I've got my table moved over so I can access this half of the wheel and everything, or this half of the rear end. I got to pull that wheel off. I have to pull the brake drum. I got to unbolt it right there, and basically unbolt the shock, pull the brake lines off, take these bolts off right here. I got to pull this whole thing off. Basically the whole swing arm has to come off too, and I'm going to pull the rear diff and probably take it apart. Or it's not really differential, it's a gear case, but I'm going to take that apart. I got a new seal, all new seals for it. Just I'm going this far, I might as well just reseal everything so it doesn't have to be done for another 5 to 10 years. So that's the plan anyway. And then, as I discussed before, I've got the notorious weird spanner nut in there. Hopefully those don't put up too much of a fight, so we shall see. So anyway, here we go. So this is where I'm at so far. I've got the whole brake drum assembly off. There's one of the O-rings that I talked about in a previous video. That one's kind of stuck on there, but you see that there's it's pretty dirty. I'm going to try to clean as much of that up as I can. Once I got the brake drum unbolted, there's actually studs in the back of it that go through these holes right here on this flange, and there's nuts on the back. You take those, take those off. You can work the brake drum off. It's a little sticky because there's a seal that has to kind of pop over this little lip on the axle, but it will come off. It's supposed to anyway. And then once I got that off of there, I slid the axle out this way. So, and as you can see right there, that seal's pretty dirty too. So I'm going to go ahead and, like I said, I'm going to reseal everything. But I went ahead and marked the axle right for right side. This one looks like it's only going to fit one way. There may be some machines out there that you could slide in either way, but I like to mark things just in case, because going in this deep on a job where you're taking a lot of stuff apart, sometimes it can be hard to remember exactly where it went or how it went back on, because sometimes when you're bolting stuff back together, the way things are set up, you could actually bolt it together different ways, but only one way is right, you know. And I also stopped the video for a few minutes and I took some pictures of this brake setup. So I'm going to make sure I get the springs positioned properly. Looks like I'm going to have to take these cotter pins out and remove this plate, and just looks pretty basic, but I'm going to have to get all this out of here. I've got new brake shoes and springs for it. And I'm also going to knock out these seals and bearings in this plate and put new ones in. So I'm going to get all that done. I've got the brake drum over here and it's really clean inside. I'm going to replace this dampener ring also, and it's also clean inside the brake housing cover. So I was pretty impressed with that. So got the little hub right there. Another tip real quick is, every once in a while, usually when I'm taking stuff apart, when I have nuts like this, I like to put them back on the studs or bolts or whatever. That way you don't have like a whole pile of them just, you know, flopping around. And I definitely, again, recommend getting these magnetic tool trays. I've got several of them. I've got that big one right there. It's holding some of my tools, but you know, these will help you. These can save you a lot of time and money, because if you drop some of this hardware and don't have spare hardware in your shop or whatever, you might have to order it or spend a whole day out at hardware stores looking for it. And these little $5 and $10 trays can help prevent that. Sometimes you can get them for free at Harbor Freight with a coupon, you know, so they're definitely worth having several of them around. So anyway, just kind of wanted to show you where I was at so far. Cheers. So I pulled the rear diff or gear case off. Got that far. It's pretty easy. It was just 8 bolts, and then you have to take the skid plate off of it from down there. It's like 2 or 3 bolts, no big deal. And then you got to remove this little breather tube. Again, not a big deal. But there's supposed to be an O-ring that goes in there, to my knowledge, and it is not there, nor is there one here. So there's supposed to be one here on this side, and looks like there's one in here. Looks kind of roached out. There's a lot of rust up in there. Other than that, it's fairly clean. It seems like the seals are okay, but this one here looks like it's definitely leaking from somewhere. So this is where it bolts up to the front of the swing arm right there, and there's the shaft that goes up in there. This one has a little spring in the back towards the gear case side, and this one slides up in there. Let me see. Yeah, can't really see up in there. The camera's not really picking it up, but it's basically like a U-joint yoke thing that goes up in here. And basically your output shaft of your engine turns that, and it turns your gear case, and that's what moves your back wheels. So anyway, Got a little bit of work to do. I'm going to take this plate off, open this thing up. I'm going to replace the O-ring that's in here. I'm going to knock all these seals out and replace those, and hopefully get this thing all back together without breaking anything or destroying any of the new seals or bearings or anything, and we'll be good to go. And I'm going to clean it up as best I can. So I had to get my breaker bar out and loosen up a couple of those bolts. They have a 14 millimeter head on them, and I actually had to get my air ratchet out. I haven't used that thing in forever. It's a little Campbell Hausfeld Walmart special, but it worked like it was supposed to, so not super powerful. Another quick garage tip while I got these out, this tub of towels, okay? I'm trying to film these videos and I keep touching all this greasy crap, and instead of using a whole bunch of gloves that are going to tear anyway because you got to pull and push on this stuff, before I grab my camera or my phone, I just grab one of these out of here, wipe my hands off with it, and once I'm done wiping my hands with it, I wipe down some parts, you know, stuff like this bunch of crud on here, you know, but I wiped a couple parts down, cleaned some grease up, and they work really well. So get you some of those. So anyway, I'm gonna keep moving forward. Alright guys, so what I'm going to do right now is, let me back up. I pulled the O-ring out of here. This is what seals this up. It's a little O-ring, but it's pretty big in diameter. And if that O-ring is bad, or if this seal is bad, this whole brake housing will fill with water and mud and whatever. Okay, maybe grease or oil, whatever. So what I didn't show in the video, I'm trying to keep it as short as possible, is I did spray this out with some brake cleaner. I got my wire brush out and wire brush the whole outside of it just so the seal can sit in there nice and tight. And I'm going to clean it up a little more. but got the seals and bearings in. They're nice and tight and smooth. And I'm going to put these Bike Master brake shoes in there. So I'm going to speed this up. One last thing. I'm going to put my gloves on just so I don't contaminate the new brake pads. Alright guys, so I've got the new O-ring in here on the brake panel, and got the new pads in. It wasn't that hard. Basically what I did was I took the brake pads and kind of put them like this. I didn't spread them out, put them like this, and I put the springs in. I don't know if they have to go that way, but the hooks were coming from the back side like that on both sides, so that's how I put them back in. And I got this little plate on that holds the brake shoes on to these pins right here, and I got to put some new cotter pins in. One quick tip, again, I'm trying to keep this video short, but get you a cotter pin assortment, okay? Don't ever reuse old cotter pins unless you absolutely have to, especially on critical components like this. I've seen people reuse them on like ball joints and, you know, stuff like that, like really critical stuff. And if those cotter pins break and fall out, you're going to be in a world of trouble. It's not worth it. These things, you can get these at Harbor Freight or pretty much any auto parts store for probably $5 to $15, depending on where you buy them. I've had this kit for years and I've used it over and over and over again. There's a lot of them in here, all different sizes. This one, I can't remember where I got it. I may have gotten it at Harbor Freight, but it's just a cotter pin assortment. There's 555 cotter pins in here, so it's well worth picking these up. So the last thing I have to do to this is get these cotter pins in here, and I'm going to move on to something else. Alright guys, I hope y'all can hear me good. I got my fan going back there. I took the the brake drum cover and I ripped that old seal out. Got it right here. It was probably okay, but I know this thing has never been replaced, and I'm like, again, I'm replacing everything that I can while I'm in here. I don't want to do this twice. So I basically, you want to get yourself a good seal puller. I had one in the past that basically this part was made out of cast aluminum or something, and it broke right here. These tips will eventually break off. It's kind of considered a wear item, but I can't remember where I got this either. But you want to get yourself one with a good steel handle, and this one actually came with an extra tip right here. You can actually unscrew it and put the new one in, and you basically stick it down in there and just peel it up. I used to try to pry them out with screwdrivers and stuff like that until I discovered these, and I wish I'd have bought it a long time ago. But this one was kind of tricky to hammer in, so a spring puller is another tool you need, but we'll get into that later. So I had to kind of be careful and just tap it in around the edges, and got it in there so that way I know it's not going to leak. Moving forward. Alright, naysayers, just found my first really good use for this Harbor Freight clamp. There she is. I got this diff clamped down, and clamped it to the underneath side of my table to hold this diff for me. Okay, and I could not get this. This is a big seal. It's all lined with metal inside. It's got basically a metal frame, and it was shoved way up in there, and this thing was leaking. Okay, I messed it up getting it out, of course, but you have to expect that. But I basically had it sitting like that, had it clamped to the table like this, and I got my seal puller, stuck it up in there, and I put some padding right here so I didn't damage this, and I pried on it, came right out. So there you go, Harbor Freight F-style welding clamp, use number 1025. Okay guys, so I got all the seals, new seals in my differential gear case. I keep calling it a differential, it's a gear case. Anyway, tried to clean up as much of the edge as I could, that way the seal can get a nice tight seat on there and hopefully not leak. I wiped the axle down with these right here, this tub of towels. Got most of the crud off of it, used a little bit of brake cleaner. Got the brake drum over there. Got the new new brake pads in. Got the brake drum cover cleaned up. It's ready to go on. Got the new seal in that. So that should be ready to go. And now I have to put this boot on. Got a new boot. And these O-rings are going to go in between the swing arm and the gear case. We got a new boot and some new clamps for it. This boot, I don't know if I'm going to be able to video this because it's in such a tight area and I've only got two hands, but what I figured out was I thought I was going to have to pull the whole swing arm off and take it off to replace that. Well, when I pulled that shaft out that comes back through the swing arm to the rear gear case, the basically like the U-joint yoke that's up in there, you can actually, when you take that shaft out, it actually allows this to slip off of the output shaft, and there's a gap in here. See? So it's just enough for me to possibly get in there and replace that boot without removing the swing arm. So I'm going to try to do that. Hopefully it works, and hopefully I don't destroy the new boot getting it off of there. So we'll see. I was able to get that boot off. That was kind of a test of how easy or hard it was going to be to get the new one back in there. But as you can see, this tear was already there, had some dirt in it. I'm glad I caught that before I gave it back to my father-in-law, because he may have never caught that and I may not have either, and that could have caused some you know, somewhat expensive problems. And I basically pulled these old clamps off. They weren't too bad to get to, and there's the old one. As you can see, that shaft right there, you can barely see it, but it's basically, you know, the U-joint. I cleaned up as much of the crud off of it as I could. Luckily, that seal, let me see if I can get a better shot of it. There's a seal right up in there around that output shaft, and that's what holds your engine oil in, and if that leaks, you got problems. And you may not see it for quite a while because it will leak down inside of the swing arm, and basically you just sit back there if everything's sealed up in your diff or rear gear case and swing arm, and you may never know. That's why it's important to check your oil before and after every ride. Obviously this one's got a top end leak, and I'm going to get to that next, but I was able to clean this up. I think I can get it on there without damaging it, and hope, you know, that way I won't have to pull that swing arm off. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do that. So anyway, here we go. All right guys, we're back. I was able to get the new boot on and the new clamps. Okay, I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's in there. Nice brand new boot. It was kind of a pain, but I will give you a tip. Take some WD-40 or Super Tech spray lube, whatever you got, and lube the crap out of that thing, because it will help it slide around, and when it starts contacting the shaft that's sticking out of the motor and things like that, instead of just grabbing and tearing it, it'll slide along it and not tear it. I couldn't put the clamps on there and leave them loose and then put the boot on and just slip the clamps over. I didn't end up having enough room to do that. So I basically took the screws out of the clamps and opened up the clamps after I got the boot slid over. And just while I'm thinking about it, it's nice. It has these little pull tabs on it. It's got 3 of them on the back, which helps you tremendously in getting that thing to slide over the swing arm right there. But another thing that helped me out tremendously were these pliers. Super long needle nose pliers. Okay. I was able to kind of reach up in there from the back and underneath and from this side and grab them and kind of pull on them as I needed to get them into place. I don't think I could have gotten that thing on there without these. So yeah, it was a little bit easier than I thought it would be, but it still, you know, wasn't super easy. I had to wrestle it in there, but the whole thing probably took less than 30 minutes. So anyway, it's good to know. Again, I've never done this particular job on this particular bike, so it's good to know that you can replace that shaft without pulling the swing arm off, but you will have to unbolt the diff and pull the axle out and all that stuff, which is it's quite a bit of work, but it's not super hard. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoy. I'm going to go ahead and button this thing back up now, and when I get it buttoned up, all this rear end stuff, I'm going to pull the plastics in the seat and the gas tank and the guard that goes underneath the gas tank and above the motor right there. I'm going to pull all that stuff off, and I'm going to replace that valve cover gasket on the top end so it can quit spitting oil everywhere. So anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and like and subscribe. I'm going to go ahead and button this thing back up in super fast lightning speed. Thank you. All right, guys, so I got the rear end all buttoned up. I put fresh diff fluid in the back, gear case fluid, gear oil, whatever you want to call it. Brand new brake pads, brake shoes, whatever. I lubed that spring up down there, adjusted these cables. One mistake that you did not see in the video when I was putting that brake panel on, I should have slid the axle in first, going that direction towards the left side of the bike. I should have slid the axle in first, then bolted the brake panel on, then the brake drum, then the cover, then the hub. I didn't do that. I wasn't paying close enough attention, and I basically did it wrong, had to pull it all back apart, and I just kind of cut it out of the video. But anyway, my father-in-law is going to be happy for now. Again, I got this boot replaced, so not going to be any mud or anything, water, anything getting in there. The next project is going to be doing this top end, just basically replacing all the gaskets, and then I'm going to probably put new wheel bearings on the front, and button this thing up. I'm kind of out of time today. It's getting kind of late. I started on this at about probably 10:30 this morning, and I'm just now wrapping this up, but I also have to take a lot of breaks because my lower back will start hurting, and I kind of know my limits with it by now. And I've pushed my lower back too far in the past, and it will put me out of business for a month if I do that, and I have to go to the doctor and get shots in it in my back and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I try to take breaks maybe every 30 minutes to an hour and just kind of rest my back, stretch out, grab a drink or whatever, just so I don't overdo it. But anyway, this was a sort of easy, sort of semi-complicated little fun project. And again, you know, now I know how to do it. You know, again, I made a few mistakes, but if I ever have to do this again, it won't happen again. And I learned a few things, and I hope this video helps some of y'all out, possibly, you know. And if y'all have any questions or anything, just go ahead and put some comments or questions or whatever in the comment section, or you can email me if you want to contact me for any reason at doitallgarage@yahoo.com. And I appreciate y'all watching, and click like and subscribe if you'd be so kind. I've got a lot more to come. I'm going to be doing a few more videos on this bike, and I got some other bikes too, and got some other welding projects and power washing projects coming up, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.